Before Mma entered the university, he attended hundreds of funerals. Yet, he never saw a single corpse. And somehow, this funeral saved his life. Years later, when internet fraud swept through universities and hostels across Nigeria, when drugs became fashionable, when quick money seduced students across the country, Mma would resist temptations that destroyed many of his peers. Not because he was stronger, not because he was smarter, not because he was more religious. The reason was he in a small village palm wine shop, a place most people considered ordinary, a place that quiet, that secluded, but it shaped the future of a young boy. At first glance, it appears to be a story about palm wine. It is not. At second glance, it appears to be a story about funerals. It is not. The deeper story is about one of Africa's oldest institutions for preserving memories. A place where communities judge lives. A place where reputations survive longer than bodies. A place where a boy learned that every choice eventually became a story. And every story eventually becomes a verdict. His name was Mma, and this is the story of the classroom that had no walls. Mma's father was a palm wine tapper. Every morning, before sunrise, he climbed towering palm trees. Every evening, he returned, carrying fresh palm wine. His mother traded in the village markets. Together, they built a simple life. From childhood, Mma helped sell palm wine. At first, he thought it was only a business. He was wrong. The shop was something much bigger. Wedding buyers, festival buyers, travelers, hunters, village elders, and funeral buyers came. Every one of them was coming as customers to the palm wine shop, and every one of them was carrying news. Every conversation carried information. Every argument carried lessons. Without realizing it, Mma was growing up inside a living archive. Long before social media, long before radio reached many villages, long before podcasts and motivational speakers, palm wine shops served as a community newspaper, community court, community university, and nowhere was this more visible than during funerals. Whenever someone arrived wearing mourning clothes, everybody knew what it meant. A death had occurred. Someone had just died. The customer would request several containers of palm wine, going from 5 to 6, sometimes 10 kegs. Then somebody would ask, who died? But the second question was always more important than the first one. After the person has answered the name of the person that died, then the second question would then come. What kind of person was he? Years later, Mma will realize something astonishing from these questions. Nobody asked how the person died first. Nobody cared whether it was malaria, typhoid, cancer, or old age that killed the person. People wanted to know something else. What kind of life had he lived? One, who is he? Who was he in the community? How did he interact with people around him? One evening, Mma finally asked his father, Baba, why do people always talk about the dead like this? His father said, with Mma, then his father smiled. Then he answered with words Mma never forgot. Because death closes the mouth. He paused. The only thing left speaking is your life after your mouth is closed. The old man nodded. Nobody argued with him. Mma did not fully understand what he meant, at least not yet. One afternoon, a funeral customer arrived for one of the wealthiest men in the region. The dead man owned farms, he owned buildings, he owned vehicles. People expected praises. Instead, they heard accusations. He never paid workers properly. He cheated his own family. He took advantage of the weak. Then one elder laughed. A man can build a large house and still leave behind a small name. The statement silenced everyone. Young Umma listened carefully. For the first time, he saw something strange. Money had survived. Respect had not. Months later, another funeral customer appeared. This man had died with almost nothing. A leaking roof, a small farm. He wore worn-out clothes. Yet the atmosphere changed completely when his death was announced. People spoke through tears. He helped the widows. He settled disputes. He never cheated anybody. One woman quietly wiped her tears. The village had lost a good man. Then Mma asked another question. Papa, why are they crying more for the poor man than the rich man? His father poured fresh palm wine into a calabash. Then he replied, money buys a funeral. He looked directly at his son. Character decides who cries at the funeral. Mma never forgot this. Fresh palm wine is sweet, but leave it long enough and it becomes sour. It ferments. It becomes something different. One evening, Mma watched his father examine the calabash. The old man smiled. People are like palm wine. Mma looked confused. His father continued. We all begin one way. He pointed to the fermenting wine. Fresh, sweet and bubbling. But time reveals what we eventually become. Years later, Mma would remember that lesson too. At 16, Mma left for the university. The village boy disappeared to a much larger institution where the people's character could be tested. The village disappeared behind him. A new world opened. The world of freedom, opportunity, temptation. His roommate Effie became his closest friend. They arrived with the same dreams. Both came from struggling homes. Both wanted success. Both wanted to help their families. But university offered shortcuts. Internet fraud, drug abuse, smoking, heavy drinking, quick money. Soon, Effie began changing. New phones appeared. Expensive clothes appeared. Money appeared. Admiration followed. Mma watched carefully, and for the first time, he felt tempted. Then hardship arrived. School fees was increased. His mother's trading business suffered losses. His father's palm wine tree produced less wine that season. The pressure became unbearable. So one evening, Effie invited him to a gathering. Mma knew exactly what it was. It was a gathering of fraudsters. For the first time in his life, he went. The room was full. Young men, fast money, big promises, success stories. Everything sounded reasonable. Everything sounded easy. Everything sounded necessary. As the meeting continued, Mma almost agreed. Almost. Then a memory interrupted him. The rich man nobody mourned. The funeral conversations. The old villagers. The verdicts. Then he heard his father's voice. Death closes the mouth. The only thing left speaking is your life. Suddenly, the room felt different. He stood up and walked away. That decision changed everything. Effie stayed. The money increased. The lifestyle improved. Admiration grew. For a while, it seemed he had won. Then came the arrests, investigations, drugs, paranoia, decline in personality, and eventually, Effie died of drug abuse. When the news reached Mma, something chilled in him. People began speaking, exactly like the villagers in the palm wine shop. He had potentials. He chose the wrong road. He wanted quick money. He destroyed himself. Different place, different generation, same verdict. The courtroom has returned. Years later, Mma returned home. His father was older. The palm wine shop still stood. The same wooden benches, the same conversations, the same customers. As he sat beside his father, another funeral buyer arrived. Another death has occurred. Another story is about to unfold. Another judgment is about to be passed. And then Mma finally understood. The villagers were never judging the dead. The dead were educating the living. Every funeral was a lesson. Every conversation was a warning. Every story was a map. The palm wine shop was not merely a business, it was an archive. A newspaper without papers, a court without a judge, a university without classrooms. A system designed to preserve memory and transmit values across generations. And for decades, it has been shaping lives, one conversation at a time. Efe returned to his village, a graduate, and an astonished educationist. At first glance, this story is the story of a palm wine seller's son. But the deeper story is about reputation, about the invisible institutions African communities built long before modern systems arrived. Because diseases may end a life, but character determines how that life is remembered. And that is the lesson Mma carried from the villages to the city. A lesson more valuable than money, more durable than success, and more powerful than reputation. For in the palm wine shop, Mma learned something university never taught him. Every person attends their own funeral twice. One in the body, and one in the stories people leave behind. Death may be brought about by pathology, such as malaria, cancer, or any other thing. But people's life is what reflects how people will cry and how they will be judged. Thank you for listening. This is African Archive, where stories from the past are told to educate the future. Please subscribe and like our comments. And like and comment. Thank you.